Biomass power plant in Fresno to talk about where your energy is coming from. First off, what is bioenergy? Bioenergy is created from sources such as wood, crops, or waste such as manure. Bioenergy can be directly or converted into liquids and gases such as biofuels. At this particular plant, they use agricultural prunings and urban wood materials that are normally openly burned or carted into landfills are now being used as properly as renewable resources.
Bioenergy is used in many different ways. In developing countries, it's commonly used for heating and cooking. Biofuels like ethanol are created through the fermentation of sugar or starch crops. Some plants naturally create an oil-like substance that is used to fuel diesel engines. Some crops are grown purely to be used as biomass, like corn and soybeans. Bioenergy is considered a renewable resource. Biomass can be burned to create heat, electricity, and biofuels through direct and indirect means.
What is bed sand?
Okay, bed sand is what we use is what we call a bed media. The actual process of the boiler is the wood burns in there, creates heat. The heat is transferred to our sand. The sand is blown around inside by fans, comes in contact with the wall, the boiler tube walls, and it transfers the heat from the sand to the boiler tube walls. There's water inside, and it heats that up to steam. And that's what you use to turn our turbine and generator. Limestone in it, you can use it as cement. That plant, that silo's next to us.
Fuel, wood, and other biomass sources make up 80% of today's renewable energy used worldwide. Bioenergy can primarily be used in energy and heating. Going into the workforce, biomass can be substituted for 15% of coal used in power plants. This allows it to reduce the cost of utilities while expanding the renewable energy used. Through the use of combined heat and power systems, 80% of biomass potential is used in heating and cooling nearby buildings. They capture the waste heat and steam of biopower production and pipe it into the buildings. Move it into the transportation methods. Both ethanol and biodiesel are developed in this alternative method. Ethanol is formed by the fermentation of corn, and since the 1990 Clean Air Act has been included into the United States gasoline with the goals of reducing gasoline emissions. Biodiesel is formed by the mixing of oils such as vegetable oil and cooking grease with ethanol and a chemical catalyst. Diesel engines can use up to 100% of this biodiesel, which would lead to huge gas emission reductions with only a slightly higher price than the average day gas prices. Biomass energy has been used since the beginning of time. When the cavemen made fire, they too were burning organic materials to keep warm or cook their food. Most of this biomass use occurs in rural areas of developing countries where half the world's population lives. For example, Kenya derives about 75% of biomass energy used. A number of industrial countries also derive a considerable amount of energy from biomass, such as Finland at 18% and down to the US at 3%.
What are the advantages of this type of energy generation? Think of all the farmers around us. When the tree orchards or grapevines are pulled out, what happens to them? Bioenergy plants actually take in that plant matter and turn it into wood chips that are then burned to create energy. It's a way of recycling our waste matter. This method is also used in tree removal. Bioenergy also benefits human health through reducing sulfur dioxide emissions, along with being geographically widespread, offering support in rural economies and reducing dependence on imported fuels.
While bioenergy has great benefits for alternative energy, there are a few downsides. The main disadvantage concerns the burning burning of plant matter for power. In this, the nutrients that would have been returned to the soil are taken up as energy, resulting in a depletion of soil. Another disadvantage which can occur in both the United States along with other countries throughout the world is the process is not carbon neutral. In this, we replace naturally occurring forest with croplands. These croplands sequester less carbon than the forest would, leading to an increase in the carbon flux. The damage of landscapes through tree, bamboo, fescue, and switchgrass farms is a final disadvantage, which follows as they cannot function ecologically, leading to a lower biodiversity in these areas. So approximately how many direct jobs and indirect jobs does this power plant offer?
Currently, there's 27 employees at this plant with 2 open positions. And there's 2 temporary laborers that are on a pretty regular basis. And indirect jobs, the number would be upwards of a couple of hundred by the time you include fuel suppliers, the truck drivers, the people that haul away our byproducts, our fly ash, our bottom ash. Easily be 200 jobs.
So within this power plant, what job do you have?
The job right now that I'm currently doing is a control room operator. And I'm controlling about 97% of the equipment in the plant from this room here.
So could you tell us a little bit about what the monitors are discussing?
Yeah, if you want to take a picture, a shot up here, this graph up here is a good overview of the entire process of the plant. It includes our boiler, our back pass. This path here is the pass that the gas takes after it's burned off the fuel in the boiler here. Here's your fire for the boiler here. And this process here is called a loop seal for our solid fuel. Then over here, this screen is a representation of the fuel yard and how we're sending the wood up to the plant. We have our reclaimer and then our conveyor system up to what we call a metering bin up to the top before it gets fed to the boiler. And these pages here aren't as good looking as the graphs, but these are basically boiler controls for firing rates, steam pressure, things like that.
Well, thank you.
Welcome.
As seen here today, the opportunities for bioenergy are widespread as the biomass used in the process with uses from filling your gas tank to providing your home with energy. The question for you is whether bioenergy is a promising alternative for your lifestyle.